This is Dennis from Guitar Lessons Ithaca talking about pop songs that are in more than one key. How many pop songs are in multiple keys? Not that many, percentage-wise, but I love it when they are. So as a songwriter, how do you go to another key and how do you get back? So this video is going to explore 3 different tunes that were among several that I'm preparing for events coming up later this year. And they all modulate, it's called modulation, in different ways. So we're going to look at each one. All right, the first one is called The Way You Love Me by Faith Hill. And it's in the key of C. It starts out in the key of C. Now you have to know your harmony a little bit in order to follow along with this. You have to recognize that this is the 1 chord, the 5 chord, the 4 chord in the key of C. You have to know that this B flat would be a flat 7 chord to the key. All right, otherwise this is not going to make sense. So you'll have to read my article on the harmonized scale. What is a harmonized scale, or how to harmonize a scale online. But let's listen to this, and it's going to modulate not only to the key of D here at the beginning of the chorus, but to the key of E here, and it gets back to C. I'll show you how. So follow along. I'm going to prompt you with the mouse. I could grant you that's 1 4 5. 1 5 4 5. 1 flat 7 4 5. Baby, when you're driving me crazy. Okay, now right there, it went from a 4 to a 5 to a 6 major, which is the 5 chord of the key you're going to, which is D. But it doesn't sound harsh to us at all because you're already going up in whole steps from F to G. You might as well go up another whole step. And it's only 1 beat right before the next section, so it doesn't sound off. Like, you know something's going to happen. We've had a nice 8-bar section here. Most pop tunes are in 8-bar sections. And we know that something different is coming. And it also doesn't bother the ear. So 3 reasons why it doesn't sound harsh. 1, we're already going up a whole step. Might as well go up another whole step. 2, we know something else is coming because we're at the end of an 8-bar section and we feel that a chorus is coming. And 3, it doesn't... it's not difficult for our ear to hear things going up in whole steps. It happens all the time. Usually at the end of songs when you have a chorus, let's just take a simple like, there we had a little, like it's no skin off our back to hear it going up a whole step, and that's what's happening here. But what happens further? How do you get back? We'll talk about that. So listen from here. The way you love me, there's nowhere else I'd rather be. Ooh, to feel the way I feel with your arms around me. I only wish that you could see the way you love me. Whoa, 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 the way you love me. It's not right. Okay, so 2 things happen there. 1, we had the exact same scenario where we went up a whole step and then another whole step, the 6 major to the key of D, but the 5 chord to the key of E where we're going. And then when we're in the key of E, we're at 1 5 6 4, and then 1 5 4. And then again, we know that something else is going to happen because we have this A chord there where there's no melody and it's just the chord just kind of hangs. And then you just go right back to C. That's called direct modulation. Like, there's no, there's no pivot chords. Pivot chord means a chord common to both keys, which we really haven't seen exactly yet, because this chord is in the key of D. This A chord is in the key of D, but not in the key of C necessarily. It's supposed to be A minor. So we'll get back to that. But from going from here to here is just called direct modulation. In other words, we've already heard the verse before, and now we're just going back to something familiar directly. We're not wasting time with some kind of transitionary passage to get us there. We recognize it. It's not harsh because we've already heard it before. All right, so we have a couple things there. We have modulating up in whole steps, and we have direct modulation. Let's look at the next one. All right, the next one is Kodachrome by Simon and Garfunkel. This one modulates between the key of E and the key of A. The key of E, the verse, it goes 1, 1 dominant, 4 dominant, and then 2, 5, 1, 2, 5. And then second time it ends on the 1. And then in the chorus it goes 1, 3 dominant, 6 dominant, 2, 5, 1, 4 in the key of A, then 2, 5, 1, 3 dominant, 6 dominant, repeating all that, and then finally 1, 3, 6, and then here's our pivot chord. Pivot chord, I mentioned it before. So actually the pivot chords are right here. C sharp minor is in the key of E up here and the key of A. And the key of F sharp minor is also in both keys. So that is similar. Actually, the key of A is as well. It's the 4 chord in the key of E. So all these 3 chords are common to both keys. And then this chord right here, the 5 chord of the key of E, definitively pulls you back to E without any fuss. So the way that this modulates smoothly is the use of pivot chords and then changing the last chord right before the new key to definitively set up that we're going back to the original key. In other words, if this were the key of A, you would have A, C sharp minor, F sharp minor, B minor, and you'd still be in the key of A. But this B7 sets up the key of E. Let's listen to it and you'll see what I mean. Alright, so very smooth transition between chords. Now the third example, which happens to also be by Faith Hill, isn't an exact modulation, but it gives you the impression that it's in 2 different keys. Alright, now we're going to listen first and then I'll talk. Here we go.
All my thoughts just seem to settle on the breeze when I'm lying wrapped up in your arms. The whole world just fades away. The only thing I hear is the beating of your heart. I can feel you breathe, it's washing over me, and suddenly I'm melting in you.
Okay, so the chorus feels totally different from the verse. Has a totally different feeling. In the verse, it sounds like it's in A minor. There's no hint of G. I mean, yes, there's G in the chords, but they're not in prominent positions. They're not in root position, like it's a first inversion G chord with B in the bass. So, and it's transitionary. It's like for bridging between the A minor and C. So this whole verse sounds like it's in A minor, which is actually the 2 chord of the key of G. So it doesn't really modulate. If I was analyzing this, I'd call it 2 and then 1 first inversion 1 chord and then a 4 chord, etc. And then this last chord D7 is a 5 chord to the key of G. But it feels like A minor. So it's an interesting device wherein you're not referencing the tonic that much. Interestingly enough, another song that was in the batch of songs that I'm preparing for some of these events is Landslide, which also does that. It hangs on the 4 chord for a while before it finally gives you the 1 chord in the choruses. So a very similar effect here. So in the end, we've had several different strategies. I'm just going to summarize. We had direct modulation. In the end, we had several different strategies for modulating, and I'm just going to summarize some of them. 1, you just go up in whole steps. This is very common at the end of a song, but we saw it work in the middle of a song or in the beginning of a song, because when you go back to the original key, you've already heard that key and it doesn't sound weird. All right, so that's just modulating up in whole steps. Next is, we also, in that same song, we heard direct modulation, like you just change keys without any warning or you don't necessarily need, if it doesn't sound harsh, or if you want it to sound harsh, then you could do that, direct modulation. So that's actually 2 separate strategies. Number 3, pivot chords, chords that are common to both keys, and they can make the key changes sound very smooth, like in Kodachrome. And then the fourth one we heard was a perception of a key change. It's kind of like using modes. Like you could argue that verse in the Faith Hill song was A Dorian, which is the same as G Ionian. So, it's giving the impression of a different key, a different tonal center, even though it's not technically a different key. So there's 4 strategies for going to and coming back from two different keys, and there's a bunch more, and it's fun to explore these. I love writing songs. I have a small side business, lyricsintosongs.com, where I write music for people, and whenever I can change keys smoothly, I can and do, just because I like it. I mean, let's face it, pop music, the harmony in pop music is not nearly as interesting as like classical music or jazz, but you can make it more interesting. You can make your songs more interesting without much fuss. And if you want to learn more about songwriting or any other guitar related topic, then go to our website, www.guitarlessonsithica.com. We offer free trials. If you think that might be appropriate for you, fill out the little button that says tell us more about you, and we'll take it from there. All right, have fun with your songwriting.